Okay, sorry for that delay. I was trying to set up my live. We are live now. My name is Johnson Wala. Today is the 18th of May, 2023, and we are live on our weekly webinar where we discuss crucial topics, trying to enhance our knowledge, upgrade ourselves, and motivate ourselves in the task ahead. So today we are discussing dealing with stress. Sorry for that delay. I was trying to set up my live. We are live now. My name is Johnson Wala. So can we continue now? Let me, without wasting much of your time, let me bring in Mr. John Abo to commence the discussion for today.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And good evening to those that are in Qatar and in the GCC country. And for everyone joining us, you are most welcome. So basically today, the focus of our discussion today is on stress, workplace work stress. And what I want us to do, and for those of us that are participating, I would like us to all join hands as we all, deliberate. I don't want it to be like a lecture. I want it to be very interactive so that the message can actually sink home, all right? So I would be speaking a little bit and trying to get our input because we've got huge professionals, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Francis. I've known them for some years now, and they are good, so we're going to just be interacting and having this discussion to be a more practical way. That way it will be more beneficial to every one of us. Okay, so for as many of you who are joining, who are just coming on board, thank you so much for joining. So basically, what is stress? Because the word stress, it can happen, it can be caused by anything. But today we are going to be focusing on workplace stress. Every one of us are engaged in one business adventure, or you're working for a public organization or a private organization, and you find out that by virtue of your task and your assignment, you might be tense, you might be facing one or two things, So stress on my slide, I'm sorry, I apologize today. I'm unable to share the slide with us today, maybe in a subsequent meeting, because from the discussion I had with Mr. Johnson, he made me to understand that we will be having this, I think part 2 of this webinar, maybe the coming week. It will be, the information will be passed across to all of us. So we are going to be focusing on work stress. So what is stress generally? Generally, on my slide, stress is the reaction people have to excessive pressure or other types of demand placed upon them. It arises when they worry that they can't cope. Stress Also, another definition is stress is the wear and tear our minds and body experience as we attempt to cope with our continually changing environments. So based on this definition, you will agree with me as we embark on our assignment, as we work in our various offices, you may have experienced stress. You may have experienced difficulties, challenges from your work. So one of the things that I want to share practical experience, so as to drive home the point. When you are at work, sometimes or most times, you are given a task that you are not familiar with, especially for people who are just getting into, an organization for the first time. You might be given a task that you are not familiar with. It's also possible that, because you are just entering the organization for the first time, the rules might be different from where you were working before. Policies might be different. So all of these, are part of reasons why people have stress. Another reason could be as a result of workload, because most organizations we are on target. People are placed on target. People, like for those of us in construction field, every project has a time scale that the project is supposed to be completed. So, and from time to time, there might be delays. There might be certain things that would cause a delay. And when this delay happen, the client or the contract may not be extended, or there might not be time to extend it. Most times in Qatar here, you are fined. An organization, if you fail to meet a particular threshold, the company might pay a certain fine. So the company will not have a choice but to mount the pressure, on put the workload on the staff, and everyone will feel it. Right. So when this happens, everyone, especially if you are someone who you are assigned to head a particular, team, maybe for those of us in safety field, there might be times where we are supposed to work in this country, we work for 8 hours. That's by law, you're supposed to work 8 hours. And that is depending on your resumption time, you're supposed to work from, for example, maybe from 6 o'clock to 4 p.m. or 6 o'clock to 3 p.m. But because there is workload, there is targets to meet, there might be work extension. And all of these can result to stress. Okay. So I've mentioned few reasons or few causes of stress, work stress. I've mentioned when you join an organization for the first time and when you are given a task you are not familiar with, and then workloads, when there are targets for you to meet, when there are deadlines for you to meet. So these cause stress. So I don't know if any of you, Mr. Francis, or any of the participants have anything to share, because like I said, I want us to interact as much as possible. I don't want it to be a one-way discussion. I want it to be, I want everyone to participate, to say something. So what are some of the examples you can give us that can result to work stress in your place of work? Can you give me some examples so we can discuss and move to the next?
Yeah. Let me add, one example is when you have been appraised, for example, maybe towards the end of every year, in one of the organizations I worked, towards the end of every year, there is an appraisal. Right. So that could trigger stress because people will be so afraid of what the outcome will be. And in most situations, after the appraisal, people could lose their job. So that is one of the things that can cause stress in workplace.
That's very true.
Okay, can I contribute one or two things?
Yes, please. Feel free.
Yes. Basically, from my own level of expertise, I know that because in the workplace, when we are talking about stress, it's a very wide, topic, right. Depending on the angle in which it's coming from. But for the purpose of this webinar, we are talking about workplace stress, to be specific. And with respect to that, there are some conditions. You said that we call it condition, we call it causes, or we call it stressors, in the workplace that contribute or that really causes stress of employee. And number one, from my side, is the demand. So most of the thing I was saying will be aligning with what you guys have also said, like the demand, the job demand. For you not to be able to cope with the demand placed upon you, based on your tasks or the design of the kind of job you are doing. And also another condition is like the control, when you are unable to control the way you do your work. Right. It's a very strong factor or cause that can trigger stress in the workplace. Also, in the area of support, if you do not receive support from either support or information from your other colleagues or from your management, this also can trigger stress as well. Yes. And another point is that relationship. In the workplace, we have a lot of experience in Qatar, many of us, based on some nationality differences and all that. I have different colleagues with different experience. So basically, relationship in the workplace is very, very important, because when you begin to have trouble, have issues, with other colleagues or your senior manager or things like that, or supervisor, things like that, all these things contribute or trigger stress, because sometimes they will put you into pressure. When they put some kind of pressure on you, it becomes a factor that can stimulate stress in you. And also role and responsibility. When we are writing health and safety policy, there's a section that talks about roles and responsibility. So it's a vital part of anybody's job. You should have a defined role and responsibility. When you don't have a defined role and responsibility, today you are working as mason, tomorrow you are working as carpenter, they are just using you to do some different kind of function. You discover that those things, is a very strong cause of stress. Like in my organization, I know I'm an health and safety. There are some, because I work in a facility, so sometimes there are some issues that will arise. My FM manager will say, okay, Steve, send this email. It will cost me nothing, but I'll tell him, Mr. Man, this task you're asking me to do, I'm not supposed to do it. This should be the responsibility from the help desk, because they don't understand these things, because these are things that I have been fighting and been challenging in all my previous sites that I've been. You see some engineer will tell you, go and do this. I will tell you, it is your own responsibility, not my responsibility. Sometimes when roles and responsibility are not well defined by an organization, everybody just do everything, everybody are just assigned different tasks. This is a very strong trigger as well. And also when there's a changes within the organization, a lot of things changes, process changes, management changes, all those things are also a strong factor that can stimulate workplace stress I think as we go further, I will contribute in other point of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. Sorry, yeah. So is there anybody who has anything to say? So I can continue with my slide. Actually, some of the points you raised are some of the things I put in my slide. You know, when there are no defined responsibilities, you know, like our kind of job, there are so many organizations who don't understand the roles and responsibility of an health and safety personnel. You know, you find out that I have also been privileged to work as a logistic personnel. And it really opened my eye to know that most of the jobs and the things, the responsibility they delegate to safety is actually not safety, you know, it's not part of our responsibility. It ought not to be our responsibility. But so most organizations, they don't know the roles and responsibility of a safety practitioner or a safety specialist. And so when they find out that, oh, there is a particular role that is not being played by anybody, they'll just shift it to safety. And that is not right. And that causes unnecessary pressure. And then there's another point you made, which is very unique, when you don't have enough support. And I would want to, you know, come from this angle. Yes, especially when you don't have support from your top management, you know, or people who have the responsibility to take decision in the organization, when you don't have support from them, because, you know, I'm sorry to say, but most organizations, they see safety as, you know, it's a non-profitable role or a non-profitable responsibility. So when they employ safety personnel, they look at the person as they are rather wasting money for safety practitioners. But whereas what they don't know is safety is actually saving money. Safety try to help the company to not to waste money, not to spend money on things that ought to be that can be taken care of. You know, especially when work is not done safely. Monies that are supposed to be used or that's supposed to be shared for partners, you know, as profit, they will spend that money, you know, in investigation, in paying compensation and all that, because safety is not being adhered to. But they see it as a field that they just get them to just spend money on. And again, in terms of support, when you have a team, and that's why when you're hiring, you know, people who are supposed to work as, you know, in a lower cadre, you know, like the safety officer, the safety assistant, you need to look at people who are competent. Because when you bring in people just because they need a job, then you will, as the head, if you are heading a particular, if you are the head of safety, you will suffer it, you know, because you will just put people on the you know, in the field who will not be able to do their job, and you'll be forced, you know, while you are supposed to be handling other things, other higher responsibility like tackling management, you know, enforcing policies and going for other meetings and the rest, because you have a weak team. You know, you are forced to go to site to handle the things that officers are supposed to be handling. So I wanted to add that to support. You know, I don't know if Mr. Johnson has something to say. Please feel free to give suggestion and to say something so that this webinar today can be very, very interactive.
Okay. Pastor John and Francis, you have extensively talked about those factors that can cause stress in workplace. Another point I want to add is the competency. In workplace, you find out that most people, especially people that are out of job, you want to get into the job by all means. And most people can falsify CVs and resumes in different forms, even responsibilities that you've not heard of before. And at the end, when you get the job, you end up stressing yourself because you are the one that gave yourself that job, that stress. Right. So incompetency is one of the factors that, in as much as you can improve in the field, but during the hiring process, you made the organization to understand that you're already competent in that field. But right. when the job comes, when the rules comes, you cannot do it. You've ended up stressing yourself and stressing people that are also those that are above you or those that are below you, because your jobs will be passed over to others. So competency is one of those factors, and that simply means we need to go for the jobs we can do, or we improve ourselves, upgrade ourselves, read vast, get adequate information, especially when you apply in that field, so that when you get to the job, you can do it smoothly without adding much stress to yourself and to the organization. All right, you can continue.
That's a powerful one. Thank you, Johnson. Yeah, because we've seen all kinds of things, in the workplace. I remember in one of my previous roles, I was privileged to interview some persons, and you see them with voluminous CVs and as well as certifications, and then just a simple question, they won't be able to say anything. So imagine if you place this kind of people, in the field, that's trouble already, and that causes pressure, because what we are talking about is work stress, and work stress is pressure. When the pressure, stress itself is when pressure, is on you, and then you don't have enough resources to handle the pressure, then it becomes, stress. So you place those kind of people on the field, you are in trouble, So the part of competency, it cannot be overemphasized. It's very, very important when you are hiring, So thank you so much for this contribution. So let me just mention some few things. What are the indicators of stress? Physically, when you are under stress, what are the things you see? What are the examples? So people get worried. One is worried. People get tensed, and you can also get tired, because of stress. You get weighed down, you get frightened, you get depressed, you get anxious, you get angry. When you are, and this point is very important so that when we identify this, that you are under stress, and so that you know how to try to handle it, or you begin to, find ways of managing it. Because what happens is, when you start seeing these symptoms, you start getting worried, start getting tense, getting tired, you start getting depressed, anxious, and angry. You can make mistakes at the workplace. You can take decisions that will even cost you your job. You can see how stress, how stress can compound so many things. And I don't want to go into some of the medical impacts, of stress. Stress can actually, trigger, your BP. If you're someone that is predisposed, or you have you have a high BP, stress can trigger it. It can trigger it. And if it is not quickly managed, it can lead to fatality. Somebody can slump, somebody can die. So this topic is very, very important. And I'm glad that Mr. Johnson has mentioned that in the coming week, we are going to do part 2 of it, and I would want to encourage everyone who is online today to look forward to the part 2, because I guess that will be on a general, I'm sure Mr. Johnson is going to talk about it. So the indicators to show that you are under stress is you get worried, you get tense, you get tired, you get frightened, you get depressed, you get anxious, and you get angry. So I'm going to give the floor. I'm going to leave the floor open to 3 things that I've mentioned in these as an indicator of stress. How worry what the impact of worry, like how when you are under stress and you start getting worried, what are the consequences, how it will lead to, it will affect our job negatively. And then when you are under stress and you start getting depressed through these stressors, what are the impact? How does it impact our job or our performance on our job, on our assignment? And then the third one is anger. How does that impact, our assignment or what we do at work? So the floor is open. If you have anything to say, please, you just go ahead.
Okay, let me make some contribution. Based on the indicators you've mentioned, we could see, we could also classify these things as part of the sign of stress at work. Because,
Right.
as an health and safety practitioner, these are the things we should be able to observe. This, like Mr. Johnson has said, please, I want this topic to be repeated in the coming week, because what we are going to say today is not exhaustive enough, because it has said the topic is very wide. So during the time of COVID, we experienced a lot of things, but because we said to be specific to workplace, that is why we are just having a kind of restriction to the workplace. So when you look at things generally, part of the impact it will cause to even an organization is that it will decrease the performance of an employee. Okay, and once the performance of an employee is
Mr. Francis, okay, go ahead. Okay.
It will decrease so many things within the organization. So it will decrease a lot of things within the organization, and this can generate argument as well. And once we have stress-related indicators or issues like that within the site, it can also bring about high turnover rate for the staff, and also can increase sickness absence from work. People could decide to take more time off work. Okay, so, and also this can generate a kind of what we call mood swings within the employee. Yes. And also there will be kind of loss of motivation. As a worker, we all need to be motivated. Sometimes it's not about the money, it's not about the salary. Yes, people say, yeah, we work because of money. Yes, but sometimes a toxic work environment, even if they are paying you 100,000 Qatari riyal, and you are working in a toxic environment, I'm telling you, somebody who earns 10,000 Qatari riyal in a good company organization that is not toxic, you see this person will even be more healthy than you who even earn up to 100,000 Qatari riyal. So that is just a practical explanation to this, what these indicators could cause to individual and an organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francis. You you just hit the nail on the head, you know. I agree with you totally. Johnson, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I want to talk about the effect you mentioned about anger. And, stress is something that it starts from inward and it explodes to the outward. It begins to affect everybody. When you get angry, initially you think you can control it, or maybe you try to close your mouth for not talking, but the anger is boiling within, and it begins to show in your actions. It begins to show in your response. It begins to show in the way you handle the task and how you respond to external issues. Now, for example, if you get angry because you've been stressed, maybe one of the stressors that got you angry is your salary was delayed. As an employee, you deserve your salary and you need to take care of your other needs. And you got angry. Your management is very far away from you. Let's say the managing director is in a very different office in the head office, whereas you are in the site office. But you are angry, you are boiling, you are transferring aggression to your colleagues that are just within you, that doesn't even know what is happening. They don't know what the stress you are passing through.
Right.
So this is one of the effects of anger. Those who are not responsible for those stress suffers the effect.
Yes.
They are the ones that are directly that get the direct impact of this anger. So we need to find measures, find ways to control the stressors, to control the stress. When you are stressed and you get angry, you should be able to define what is making you angry. If what is making you angry is the director, and the director is not anywhere near you, he's not in the office, he's not in the site, he's not your colleague, you should be able to define what is stressing you out. And that will help you to devise the best approach to it, so that you will not transfer aggression to people that are not, that could not even meet that your need. Now, another factor you talked about that I want to respond to is the effect to the workplace. Now, when somebody becomes stressed, the target that you are supposed to meet on that particular day would be affected. Either you get tired, you get exhausted, you will not meet your target. You will not be able to complete the task that you are supposed to complete that day. And it carries it over to the next day. The same way it continues carrying over. At the end of the month, you find out that you are not able to achieve your target. And the workplace suffers it, the company suffers it, every other person suffers it. And if nobody notices it and you collect your salary, before God and man, you know that you have not done your job very well. Yeah. So these are all the effects of stress that we've passed through in the workplace, and we should be able to recognize that when you are being stressed and take appropriate action to avoid it impacting other people or impacting the company at large.
Right. Just to thank you so much for that, wonderful contribution. Just to add to what you said regarding anger. So there was something that happened in my previous sites. So it wasn't a direct worker. Because the project was a JV project, about 5 companies combined to handle this project. And a contractor, I think it is a subcontractor to one of the main contractors. A worker and the foreman they got into a heated argument. And what happened? It was, when it was after investigation that we found that, they haven't been paid, they have not paid them salary. Just to buttress your point, they haven't paid, they've been owing them for some months. We all know we are over here. We know what happens to some companies. Some companies, they're not being paid. They don't receive money, or some will receive money and they're not paying their workers. So these guys have been, owed salary. And just a little argument. The worker was supposed to enter the lift. Okay, so there's a lift, this material lift, and they don't allow the workers to use the other one, the non-material use lift. So the workers, when they are going on lunch time or when they are transporting materials, they allow them to use only the lift designated for materials. So, and what happened is, because the building is so big and it's about, I think, 30-something story building. So workers will queue up, and it was the turn of this particular worker. 4 people have entered, and he was supposed to be the one to join. And then because the foreman felt, he's a big oga, he's a big mudir, he cannot wait for his turn. So he jumped the queue and made the other worker that was supposed to enter to stay outside. And the guy held the old man. The foreman is I think around 50-something, and he was diabetic. And this worker is young, like about 20-something. He was angry and hit the man right in front of everybody. The guy slumped, and they tried to resuscitate the guy. They called ambulance. Ambulance came, and they tried everything. The guy was gone. So you can see, as a result of accumulated anger, salary was being delayed, and so many other factors, at the workplace. That is what led to that fatality. So you see, the stress, like Mr. Francis has said, it's a very broad topic. It's a very, very broad topic. And it's actually a topic that is very useful, in this our current situation, or what is happening right now in Qatar. A lot of people are out of job and the rest. So I know that by the next week, when we repeat this topic again, it's going to be broader than this, So, Mr. Francis, do you have anything to say? I see that you have unmuted yourself.
Well,
before
actually,
we proceed to the next.
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
Let me just say one or two things.
Okay.
Because, like we said, we just have, maybe because of time, we might not be able to say a lot of things, but I believe.
I didn't even know. I never knew time had gone like this. Oh my God.
So, but basically, what I'm just trying to look at is, because when we want to focus on dealing with it within the workplace context, okay, we need as a professional or as an employer, okay, we need to understand what is workplace stress.
Mm-hmm.
By learning about the causes of the stress, and also recognizing the signs or indicator of this stress in the workplace.
Yes.
Okay. Now, point number 2 is that as a professional, we also need to carry out what we call workplace stress risk assessment. It is recommended by the Health and Safety Executives in the UK.
It is.
And we also need to identify and track workplace stressor, by using maybe a simple checklist, or probably a kind of health and safety well-being survey of our workers. Because the truth is that was why there was an establishment of the ISO 45003, I think. This has to do with psychological well-being of workers. Because they find out during the time of COVID and all that the issue of depression, the issue of mental health issues are growing rapidly. within the workplace. And,
Yes.
all these things you said, like I said, when we keep saying it, we will not be able to exhaust it.
No.
Okay, but I will employ Mr. Johnson. I don't know, maybe the next session, if we can have it more than 1 hour, I think that will really be appreciated, because we will have time to dig into some other information, because I have experience in so many things, especially when we begin to look at what are the hormones, because there are some hormones that are responsible, because when you are stressed, okay, your body will secrete an hormone called cortisol. Okay, but naturally, on a normal level, the cortisol are also classified as fight and flight hormone, an hormone to defend your body system, or, in terms of maybe when issue arise like stress and all that. So in turn, another effect is that once you now have a kind of prolonged or chronic stress condition, the cortisol level will become high. And when the cortisol level become high, it creates general problem within the body. You have insomnia, difficulty in sleeping. Okay, you have a lot of things, a lot of medical conditions.
I have all those things on my slide. Actually, my background actually is in psychology. So I'm conversant with some of these hormones you're talking about. Like one is called a neurotransmitter.
Yeah, definitely. So, but generally, I think the next session, I believe, is going to be interesting, because I have a preparation about the relationship between stress and performance. See, either you like it or you don't like it. The truth is that as an individual, we need a little bit of stress in our daily life, okay, to be able to, for us to be able to perform.
Yes, it's positive stress and negative stress. Yes.
Yeah, because there's what we call, at the moderate level of stress, you have a kind of optimal performance.
Right.
But once it become persistent, frequent, for a long period of time, it will lead to chronic. And if you are in a condition whereby you have low stress, you might not be able to perform well. And if the stress is too much as well, you're not going to perform well. The performance will be very, very low. But we need that level of push, to be a kind of minimal or moderate, to have that optimal performance in our workplace. That is the truth. Because sometimes when you look yourself, when you are idle at work, when you don't have much to do, you cannot be productive. That is the reality. But sometimes you just need that energy, that push, that little stress to make you active and perform. So like I've said, when the next session comes in, we'll have opportunity to pour more light on all these areas. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Before we conclude, Pastor John, can you talk a bit about dealing with stress, practical things that people need to do when you are stressed and when you are going overboard? What are the things that people need to do to deal with it so that it will not negatively affect himself or the workplace?
All right. Yes, of course. I'm going to highlight just a few things. I mean, we have only a few minutes left. So practically how to deal with stress that we face every day from our work and all our activities. Some of the things I've put down here. Number one is we need to make a priority list. I remember back in secondary school, high school, we have, there's a course, economics, there's a topic called scale of preference. I believe that one of the major reasons why people, like I said, stress leads to pressure, and pressure comes as a result of lack of resources to handle the pressure. So many times we want to, in an organization or in an office, you want to do so many things at the same time, and it's not possible. So the best way to approach it when you are under stress, or when you have workloads, or when you have a target, is you have to make a priority list. Scale down the things that are necessary, the things that are important, and then scale off those that are not urgent or important. Because if you want to do everything you want to achieve, the things that are not urgent and they are not important, you want to do that, then you will definitely be under pressure. And then also another very important way to cope with stress is learn to say no. Learn to be assertive and learn to say no. When you are given unnecessary targets, or you are given a responsibility you are not capable of handling it, say no. And the no is, you don't have to, I'm not saying you should just go to your boss and just say you can't do it. No, you have to put it in a right way. Tell them you are not competent to handle this particular assignment. Because in a bid to try to please your management, and then they give you so many assignments to do, and then you want to do everything at the same time, you'll be under pressure. It will be dealing with you inside. And stress, trust me, stress is not good. It's not something you want to live with. It can lead to suicide. We don't have time, actually. It's a very broad topic. It's a big issue. What if you go in America right now, you see a lot of people, you see the rate at which people are, carrying gun and shooting people and killing people these days in America is so much now. And I was reading about it, and one of the things I found out was that it's as a result of the COVID. This is the post-COVID effect. People were under stress during the COVID. So what am I trying to say in conclusion? Learn to say no when you are given huge responsibility. Very well you are not able to perform or you are not able to handle. Learn to be assertive, learn to say no, and prioritize what is important and scale off things that are not important. So, unfortunately, we are out of our time. And next week, please, is going to be more interesting, because the topic is not going to we're not going to just be focusing on work stress alone. Next week, we are going to broaden the topic. And before I hand over to Mr. Johnson, Francis have requested that at least you should, allow the topic to be just stress. Let it be a broadened topic so that everybody can have, one or two things to share. Thank you very much. It's a privilege, a rare privilege to have been a speaker and to participate in this forum today. Thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting every one of us next week. Over to you, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Pastor John, and thank you, Francis. Thank you, Harrison, Helen, others. Let me get the names. So I'm so glad that you participated today. By next week, we'll be repeating this topic based on popular demand, because it's actually important in this time. We need to talk about what stresses us and how we can deal with it. Okay, so by next week, same time, 6 p.m., and maybe we'll not have it for just 1 hour, maybe we'll do it 1.5 hours, so that we'll have enough time to talk about it and everybody will contribute. Secondly, I will try to make the design and the link available as quick as possible so that we can distribute it and get a large number of people in attendance, because people need this information. We are contributing our quota to save life. Never can tell who this message is for. It might not be directly for me or for you, but someone needs to get this information and run with it so that life could be saved. Then the third thing is, I have a broad social media handle, Safe O'Clock News. So both in Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So this is, you can just search Safe O'Clock News, then you will be able to see some of the informations that will be posting. Even this video today, we'll post it on YouTube so that people can watch again and get enlightened. Okay, so I thank everyone for coming. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your contribution. You are making impact in this project, and I believe that it will not be in vain. So thanks for coming, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Femi, are you there? Femi, you are just listening. You are not talking. Okay. Have a nice day, Femi.